Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Jeremy Spivey, I'm a market research analyst here at Repair Shop Websites. And today I'm going to be telling you about our survey that we recently did of auto repair shop customers and how you can use the information that we learned from that survey to bolster your profits and gain some more customers. So we surveyed just under 600 auto repair shop customers, and it was split between dealerships, independents, and franchise customers. So I had around 230 dealerships and independent automotive repair shops each, and then 130 customers of franchise shops. And we asked them where they last went, what type of shop, and then how often they visit that shop. So some were loyal customers, some were customers that just visited the shop once and hadn't gone there again. And we looked for differences between how people felt, both how loyal customers felt about their shop compared to customers that had just visited their shop for the first time, and then how dealership and franchise customers felt compared to independent customers. And one thing I want to emphasizes that unlike a lot of the surveys out there, we did have a goal in mind when we ran the survey. We weren't just trying to get data. We wanted to find some ways that the shops that we serve, which is primarily independent automotive repair shops, could get more business by focusing marketing messages or marketing activities on certain things. So our job is to help independent repair shops market their business, and this is one part of that. So good news first, we asked our customers whether they'd rate their shop as excellent in each of these 5 categories on the screen here: price, quality of service, trustworthiness, speed of service, and convenience. And the big surprise is, except for dealership and franchise pricing, most people are really happy with their shop, no matter what type of shop it is. Repair shops have battled a negative reputation for so long, but in reality, most customers are happy with the service they get at automotive repair shops of all 3 types. But the other finding is that customers of independent shops were happier across all 5 categories. So the one where we expected the most difference was price, and sure enough, there's biggest differences in that category. You can see 81% of independent repair shop customers said they were ranking their shop as excellent in the price category, only 64% for dealerships, so almost 20% lower on that category. But service quality ranked higher too. So even with all the fancy, expensive equipment that dealerships have, service is still better at independents. And despite a lot of the dealerships offering perks like late hours or a nearly new service loaner vehicle, most independent shop customers felt like their shop was more convenient too. So I think a lot of it boils down to just independent shops offer a better experience. And if a customer leaves the shop thinking that the experience was positive, they're going to rate that experience as excellent across the board. And if the experience wasn't great, then you're probably less likely to do that. So that's nice information, but what can you actually do with it? Well, one of the things that it shows is that independents are different from dealerships and that those differences matter and that they're probably worth emphasizing. So one thing we pointed out in previous webinars we've done is that many customers of independent shops have already chosen to leave a dealership. If you think about it, if they bought their vehicle from a dealership, whether that vehicle was new or used, that person's already probably been introduced to the service department. They probably got some free service for the first few months or years that their vehicle was on the road. And even if they stopped going there, that dealership is probably sending postcards to them still. So it's easy to just go where you've already gone to get your car maintained or repaired, but these aren't customers that have done that. So why did they decide to leave? Well, price is one factor for sure. You can see that the price difference was pretty significant on that other slide. Independent shops may be closer to their house, but that's not really something that you can have much of an impact on unless you want to pick up your shop and move across town. But there are plenty of other reasons besides price and location that would cause someone to select an independent shop too. They're more personal. So typically when you call an independent shop, you're not going to get phone trees. You're not going to get a new person every single time you take your vehicle in or give them a call. You're probably not going to get the hard sell and a bunch of additional services like you would at the dealership. And just in general, the conversation seems more personal and less scripted because it is. So I think the biggest piece of advice is just to take advantage of all those differences. You can imagine calling into a dealership, being routed to the service department, getting a couple minutes of hold music, and someone picks up and they say, "Service department, can I help you?" They've got a really rushed feeling to their voice. Just do the opposite of that. Make sure they hear a human first, not a recording. Make sure whoever's picking up the phone isn't speaking as fast as they can, or that their voice doesn't say, "How quickly can I get you off the phone so I can get back to work?" It doesn't really make any sense to scare off tomorrow's customers just to deal with today's problems. And as far as upselling goes, there's probably a big difference there between scripted upselling like you would get at a dealership and educational upselling. So your scripted upselling is mainly just focused on what's due. You know, you have this and this and this due at this many miles, but keeping someone safe and preventing problems down the road, those aren't really upsells. Those are just doing your job, you know, helping people to keep their vehicle in good condition. So if you're explaining what you think a customer should prioritize or what the impact on their car might be if they postpone a particular service, they're going to respect that a lot more than just saying, "This thing is due, do you want us to do it?" And it also helps if you try to give them options, especially if it's an expensive thing, because you do want to make it clear that they're in control of their financial decisions. You just want to make sure that they understand the potential impact of not getting it done today, whether that's unlikely to be a problem in the next few thousand miles, or whether it's something that you wouldn't even drive with because you wouldn't feel like you're keeping your family safe if you didn't fix it, you know, personally as a mechanic. So those types of things, taking your time on the phone, going through the ways that putting off a repair may or may not impact their vehicle, those things do take time. And shops are busy places. You know, a lot of the times that you're on the phone and you're speaking in that rush voice is because you're in a rush. It's easy to feel like you don't have time to focus on customers that may need help tomorrow or next week when you've got a whole bunch of vehicles in the shop and people you've already promised are going to have their vehicles back before the end of the day are waiting on you. But that is really important if you want to stand out compared to dealerships or franchises or even other shops that are independents. If you want a customer to decide that they're your customer instead of whoever has a coupon, then you kind of have to stand out in their mind. And I think the easiest way to make sure that happens is to hire hire a person that has natural skill in that for your service writer, your customer service person. I think it's a lot easier to train someone who's geared towards customer service how to spend their time more efficiently than it is to find a really efficient person and train them to be patient and understanding with people over the phone. But whatever route you go, you're going to have better customer retention if the customer leaves feeling like you actually cared about them when you were talking to them. And getting that feeling that someone actually wanted to help you when you were talking to them is I guess depressingly rare in this era of big box stores and fast service and Amazon. And it's something that independents can still offer. The second big finding that we got out of this research centers around why people chose their current shop. So when we asked people why they chose a shop, they told us a pretty wide range of reasons. You can see lots of them out here in the chart that actually got a significant number of answers. The top three were all pretty much tied. Those were price, service quality, and trustworthiness. And there's some overlap in the categories listed here on the chart. For example, they may have felt like the shop was trustworthy based on a referral, and then they would have had to select those two categories, which of the ones that they felt was most important. But for the most part, the story here is you can't really rely on any one factor to bring in new customers. That includes price. It's more than price. It's a combination of all of these. So that's when you're thinking about how to bring in new customers. When you're thinking about how to bring existing customers back, the picture changes quite a bit. For every 10 customers who say they'd leave because the pricing was high, you've got 15 that would leave because of bad service and 20 that would leave if they didn't trust the technicians in the shop for whatever reason, whether that's a bad repair or they just didn't get a good feel like they were being taken care of while they were in the shop. So a couple ways to look at that. One, maybe they went into the shop knowing it was cheap or expensive. So they knew what they were getting into, and so the price didn't make them leave. But what we were trying to ask here is if the price was higher than you expected, would you not come back? If the service is good and you trust the mechanic, but the price was higher than you expected, would that cause you to not go to the shop again? And unless the price was outrageous, most people would go back to the shop, even if it was a little more expensive than they expected. So part of that is that finding a new shop is expensive in and of itself when you factor in all the time that you're going to spend looking for it, plus the fact that testing the service and quality and even price of another shop isn't free either. And you can easily get worse in the process of trying to get better. So if it takes more than 20 or 30 bucks, if you spend more than 20 or 30 dollars more than you thought you would, maybe you would consider that. But most people aren't going to change a shop just because it's a little pricier than they thought. And I think that's leads to the conclusion that in most areas, the way to increase profit and make your employees happier isn't really to be the price leader and hope you make it up with volume. It's to try to be the shop that people want to go to when they can afford to take care of their car well. Let some other shop be the shop that people have to go to when they're having to watch their finances like a hawk. And the goal here isn't necessarily to see how much you can charge. It's just to make sure you're charging enough to be able to make your customers happy and still make money. Price leaders can't afford to make all their customers happy because in order to make a profit, they got to get people in and out of the shop quickly. You keep perks to a minimum, keep costs down, and that's not going to lead to the best experience. So price shoppers are also more likely to be irritable anyway. They're already expecting their shop to be cheap, so they're on the lookout for anything that's a shortcut, and if they see it, believe me, they're going to let you hear about it. So what kind of things can you do to bring customers back other than just handing them a coupon for their next service? I think it's easier to bring back existing customers and advertise for new ones. It's certainly cheaper to bring back existing customers than to advertise for new ones. One way to build that relationship is to always focus on making the customer's next visit easier than their current visit. So when you learn about something that the customer wants, a customer preference, put that in the notes and make sure you're always using those notes when you're talking to the customer. And be prepared to bring that up in a conversation without them even asking. It could be all sorts of stuff. Tuesdays are always their long day at work, or they always use synthetic oil, or they're planning on getting rid of their vehicle soon. And when you gather this information, flag it and make sure your service advisor sees it when they're talking to the customer. that way, the next time you talk to them, you can let them know you remember that Tuesdays are bad, or that you're not going to recommend a major repair because you know that they're trying to get into a new vehicle soon. Each of those are just small opportunities to remind customers that there is a cost to switching shops, and that they're going to lose all of that knowledge that you have and have to give it to the next shop that they go to. I did write down a couple examples that were directly from our customers that I thought were really great. One shop has a partnership with a local bakery, and they leave a small package of freshly baked cookies in every car they service. And I heard about this and went online and looked at their Google reviews, and there are more reviews referencing those cookies than just about anything, and they're all 5 stars. So another shop leaves dinner mints in the seats after they clean out the car and vacuum it. These aren't big gestures or necessarily even expensive things, but they matter a lot in an era where everything is so process driven, and you have giant customers that are, or giant companies that are so detached from their customers. This type of stuff can make a big impression. And one other way I'd recommend is just to ask your customers to come back. And I don't necessarily mean with postcards. I know a lot of shops send out postcards, and some shops find them effective, but so many of those postcards get thrown away without people even seeing what's on the postcard. If you haven't seen a customer in a while, just give them a call and see if they chose another shop or moved out of town or what. It's not as quick as sending out hundreds of postcards, but if you've got a regular customer that's gone off the radar, it's probably worth the time to see what happened to them. And along the way, you may remind them that they need some service and they can come back in. So the last thing wanted to talk about today was reviews. This is the one area where dealerships are just crushing independents. So we asked the auto repair customers we surveyed, were you asked to leave a review online? And you can see on the chart, 49% of dealership customers said yes. 5% of independent customers said yes. So it's 10 to 1 in favor of the dealerships. I don't think that means that 5% of independent repair shops actually asked for a review. I think it's a lot higher than that. It just means that only 5% of the customers remembered being asked for a review at that last visit. And some of the people that we surveyed may have been in their shop yesterday, and some of them may have been in the shop 3 months ago. So honestly, if you think about it, it's the 49% number that's so surprising. So how would a dealership get 49% of customers remembering that they were asked for a review? I doubt you've been in a dealership service center lately as a repair shop owner or employee, but I had a recall recently, and I had to go in to get that dealt with. So after the service, they tell you a survey is coming to your inbox. In my case, it was Chevrolet. They tell you that if you don't get 5 stars, you might get fired, you won't be able to afford the rent, my children will be homeless. It wasn't exactly like that, but it was something close. So it was pretty memorable. I can understand how a lot of people would remember it just because of how ridiculous it was. I'm not necessarily recommending that you do the ridiculousness that they did. It didn't exactly make me want to go back to the dealership to get more service. But I can assure you that compared to what dealerships do, it's not going to be offensive to your customers to just ask them nicely, if you liked your experience, would you please review us online, because it helps other customers find the shop. And I think the reality is, despite the best of intentions, or in some cases even policies in place to always ask customers for reviews, a lot of independent shops don't ask for those reviews, and it shows up in the data. So what does that do? We know if satisfied customers remember being asked for reviews because we asked customers if they were satisfied. Only 12% of satisfied customers remember being asked from a review, and that's across all customers of dealerships, franchises, and independents. So we asked 600 people if they remember being asked to leave a review. There were plenty that couldn't remember whether they were or weren't and just didn't answer the question. But we still found almost 300 satisfied customers that weren't asked to leave a positive review. And that has an impact on how many reviews you get. So here's an example of what happens if you ask for a review versus if you don't. When customers remember being asked for a review, 62% of them said they left a review. When they weren't asked, only 18% left a review. So if you really want to have a great reputation online, and that is where most people look before they visit a shop, even if they hear about it from a friend, they might check the reviews before they go visit the shop. It's really important to ask for those reviews. Dealerships obviously have figured this out. That's why they make reviews such a big deal when you go there. That I think they make it ridiculously awkward, and just because they want to make sure no one forgets to do the review, and you certainly don't have to go that far to get results. And reviews are something that I have a special interest in because given that we work in marketing, those reviews matter so much because there's a disappointingly high number of people that will go online and just trust the opinion of total strangers when looking for who they should let fix their car, or even where to go to dinner or any other service they're getting done, HVAC, painting. Depending on the study that you look at online, probably between 80 to 95% of people who look for businesses online check the reviews and at least use them to determine where to go. So if you've got a bunch of recent positive reviews and your overall review score is really good, you're going to get far more customers than if you only have a handful of reviews. And that's not just because of the fact that people can read those reviews. It also impacts how Google ranks you and where you search. So reviews mean more to Google than just the happy customers. They'll use those to decide what shops get shown in the map that's above the main search results, where you've got 3 shops on a map. They'll use the reviews to determine which 3 of the shops that they place on there, among other things. They use it to determine what types of services you perform. So if you respond to a review as the shop and say, thanks so much for coming in for your brake service, I'm glad that you didn't have any problems and that it went exactly like you hoped. The fact that you mentioned brake service in your response, or that your customer mentioned brake service in the review, actually helps your shop search for brake service. And that's a big reason to respond to reviews. And also just responding to the reviews makes a shop more reputable on Google in general, because it means you're actually still running your business. So from Google's perspective, the worst thing they can do is to list a shop that is out of business and doesn't exist anymore, because if a customer goes to Google and asks for an auto shop near them, and then they drive there and the shop is out of business, that person is not going to trust Google as much anymore. And that is a big problem for Google if that happens consistently. So one of the main things they want to make sure of when they recommend a business is that the business is still in operation. And if you've got someone responding to reviews and leaving reviews on a consistent basis on the Google My Business page, then that's a sign to them that the business is actually operational and things are still happening there. So anything you can do to keep your shop looking active, whether that's website updates, reviews, responses to reviews, anything you can do to help Google know that your shop is still seeing people and doing things, is going to make them more confident in putting your shop further up the results, because they don't want to send someone to a closed business. So I think one of the reasons that people don't like asking for reviews is it can be awkward, but it really doesn't need to be awkward. When you check a customer out, you just ask them if they've had a positive experience at the shop. You want to do that because you want to have an opportunity to fix it. before they go online and post something negative, or even worse, they tell all their friends or coworkers that they had a bad experience, and you never hear about that. They just don't call you. Once the customer says that they're satisfied and you've taken payment from them, then you can just tell them you'd appreciate it if they'd leave a review online on Google about the shop. And you could also ideally send them an email after the service, or have a reminder on the invoice that you can circle as you're talking to them, and then hand them the invoice. Tell them it helps customers find the shop. I think one of the most important things about reviews and asking for reviews is that you make it seem like you genuinely do want the review. There's so many companies out there that make their employees ask for reviews, and they ask for them in this horribly scripted way that all but ensures that no one's going to bother actually giving them the review. But I definitely wouldn't only rely on signs or stickers around the shop to get the reviews. It's that face-to-face request that helps make the request so memorable and make them more likely to fill it out. And one other piece of advice: don't tie your reviews to any kind of shop benefit or coupon. Most of the review sites have policies against that, and if they figure out you're doing it, they will heavily penalize you. So you want to ask for the review, but you want to make sure you're not giving anything to the customer in return for reviewing your shop. So we went over several charts, but instead of the charts, I'm hoping you'll leave with 3 action items from all of the research that you can actually use to help grow your customer base and make some more money. First, make sure the service is personal, because that's your biggest advantage against the large dealership and franchise shops. As soon as you seem scripted or unfocused, you give that advantage away. Second, I'd always work towards making the next visit easier than the last ones. Gather the information that you can about a customer and their preferences and put it somewhere where people are actually going to read it. And each time you reference that note when you're talking to the customer, that's a reminder to the customer that there are benefits to having one home for their vehicle as opposed to shopping around. And the last thing I'd say is to make sure you're asking for reviews. It helps customers find you. It makes them more likely to buy from you, and it's going to lead to higher profits if you have that 4.8, 4.9 star review average with dozens of reviews and several recent reviews. So, and if you think we're just giving some bullet points on that won't have an impact, you can go to our own reviews on Google and see what happens when you ask for your customers to review you. It does work. So before I close out, a little bit about us here at Repair Shop Websites. We provide websites exclusively for auto repair shops. We've been in business for over 15 years. We have more than 2,300 customers all over the US and in Canada. So our focus is on building a website and a web presence that attracts exactly the types of customers that you would like to see, whether that's general automotive, whether it's specific to a brand or specialized type of repair. We partner with some of the biggest names in the auto repair business, including AC Delco, Auto Value, Parts Plus, and we've never relied on contracts to keep our customers. So you can call as much as you'd like or ask for as many changes that you want, and all of that is included in the base charge. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope you found this to be useful. And we do webinars on a fairly regular basis, so you can stay tuned to your email, and I'm sure you'll be getting another invite soon for another webinar on a different but hopefully still valuable topic. Thank you so much.